Welcome to a crap guide to anime fights, where I'm gonna guide you, giving you everything you need to know how to fight like an anime character. The first and clearly most important thing, we must have the equivalent exchange ranking of backstories. In any well-written anime fight, the character with the sadder backstory will win. You have Lee versus Gaara, where everyone was rooting for Lee, but that's because they didn't realize Gaara actually had a sadder backstory. And in a nutshell, that's why Naruto is a total crap dad to Boruto, because if you'd have been a good dad, Boruto would have had a fine backstory, wouldn't have been able to win any fights. You gotta see past this stuff, and that's what I'm here for. Definitely subscribe for more education.
Nux, no matter how much you try, you're not a teacher. I'm a teacher. I am a professional professor. I studied in university. What are you, an anime YouTuber? Out of my face.
Another very important thing to know, and that is how to correctly measure every fighter's power. If they're glowing, powerful. If they have really crazy hair, powerful. In fact, hair alone is one of the most decisive utilities in all of anime. One Punch Man has no hair. Goku has all the hair. Deku has to eat hair for power. Yes, hair is potentially one of the most important things in Japan, and you must realize the severe importance that hair abnormalities hold in order to become a proper fighter in anime. Another extremely important thing to note is if you're a main character, you're gonna need to be getting a new form sooner or later. I mean, you're not gonna stay at base form forever. Goku has forms, Naruto has forms, Luffy has forms, Ichigo's sword has forms. It's all about the forms, fam. And if you think it's about learning cool new techniques to come up with various strategies, no, that's for side characters only. Main characters only need to focus on brute force. If you're a side character, it's very important to have your own quirkiness, but if you're a main character, you truly have to realize the importance of not being able to do anything unique, but only augment yourself. Goku's forms, they're multipliers of his power level. Naruto's forms, multipliers of his power level. Ichigo Zanpakuto, multipliers of his power level, as well as his visored form, or all that. The only alchemist in all of Full Metal Alchemist that doesn't have specific alchemy, like Kimberly does bombs, Mustang does fire, Ed does all-rounded alchemy. A protagonist is not allowed to stand out, and you know, if you do stand out, you're just not cut out to be a protagonist. You gotta work on augmenting the several base powers you have. Like, take Deku, for example. He's really fast and strong, and the way he powers up is by being able to use bigger percents of his One For All without accidentally blowing himself to bits. Oh, I'm at 5% of my power, 8% of my power, 12% of my power. And another really important thing to note is while you're powering up, whether you're the good guy or the bad guy, you always have to let your opponent know exactly what percent of your power you're using. This can be used in all forms of situations, and it also helps you understand whether you're on the good side or the bad side. Deku will yell, I'm at 8% of my power, and he'll be telling the truth. How is he able to find out this percentage? That doesn't matter. The point is, he's noble and honest. Whereas Toguro, the bad guy in Yu Yu Hakusho, was claiming to be at 85% of his power, and then later said 100%, but then still got stronger because he was lying when he said 100%. When he said 100%, that was actually only 85%. This is actual dialogue in Yu Yu Hakusho, and I hope you appreciate the value and characterization it adds. You always have to let your opponent know exactly what percent you're at, but if you're a bad guy, you could lie. For example, if you're a good guy and you say it's your final form, it has to be your final form. You can't lie to a villain. Whereas villains, they could say it's their final form even if it's not actually their final form. I'm glad you understand new forms and power levels, as they're all augmentation powers, because main characters can't do anything different than the norm. Gon punches hard. I think you get my drift. But another thing about new forms and new attacks that are all augmentation powers, it must be important to remember that if you scream while doing it, it gives you at least a 45% power boost. Not only that, but yelling your attack name slaps an extra 37% on top of that. If you're attacking your opponent, it's extremely important to let him know exactly what attack you're using. Like, for example, stealthy ninjas in Naruto that sneak up to their opponents, they have to yell Rasengan, because if they didn't, well, then the opponent wouldn't know they're coming. And it's not like we want epic fights in anime to be won strategically, sneaking up on your opponent, poisoning your opponent. No, it has to be a wrestling match in the end of the day. No matter the strategies done beforehand, assassinations will not work. It'll always need to be a head-to-head battle. Look at One Piece, for example. In the beginning of every single arc where Luffy and crew have some sick plan and invade somewhere, somewhere, the plan always gets mixed up. Every single time. They wanted to assassinate Big Mom. Didn't work out. They ended up having to run away from their lives. Ended up with a brute force fight against Katakuri. They had a whole plan getting into Wano. Yeah, well, that's clearly not working out. The point is, planning ahead of time will not work because there needs to be that brute force brawl competition, or else we don't really know if the main character's stronger. Also, speaking of fighting main characters, you can never kill them. If you're a crocodile fighting Luffy and you beat them, you just drop them on the ground saying, "There's no way he will walk again." That's the correct move for anime villains. If an anime villain actually tries to finish off the main character after they're beaten, you know there's something wrong there. Clearly, that's not the right way to go. And don't worry, quid pro quo. It's not like I'm rooting for main characters or anything. That would make fights unfair. You have to be evenly matched. That's right. When the villain beats the main character and leaves him for dead, and then the main character gets up and beats him the next time, it's totally justified because the main character never kills villains, right? Like Naruto fought millions of ninjas. He didn't kill a single character in the 720 episodes of Naruto. Oh, Nux, but he killed Kakuzu. No, he beat Kakuzu, and then Kakashi went and killed him. Oh, but he beat Pain. No, he beat the robot-controlled bodies of Pain, and then Nagato commits suicide. Naruto never killed anyone in the entirety of Naruto. Same with Luffy, same with Deku, same with almost every single protagonist. You're not allowed to kill the villain. So I believe it kind of works out in tangent here. The villains, after defeating the heroes, leave them for dead so they can still get up and then beat them. But at the same time, the heroes will never kill the villains. And to make it even better, every time it looks like the hero killed the villains, and then someone in the background says, "Did we do it?" Or, "I think we got him this time." Spoilers, you didn't. That's impossible. And speaking of the people in the backgrounds, yeah, it's been a while since I mentioned bronchitosis. For those of you who don't know, bronchitosis is an anime illness that befalls support characters where they commentate the obvious stuff going on right now, like Brock does in Pokemon.
Brock, could that be?
The same Squirtle that Gary originally received from Professor Oak? Yeah, that's the one.
It's extremely important to have someone commentating what's clearly going on in front of our eyes, because if that weren't the case, then the Tournament of Power in Dragon Ball Super would only been like 10 episodes, and we needed to stretch it out to like a happy 65. When Caulifla goes Super Saiyan, we need at least 5 perspectives of people saying, "Oh my god, I think Caulifla actually went Super Saiyan." Because if all 5 wouldn't have told us, we wouldn't have realized that they realized that Caulifla went Super Saiyan. So this is extremely important. But you see, bronchitosis only applies to people watching the fight. As far as the fighters go themselves, we have to have some conversation going on too. You can't just have firing off attacks back and forth. No, they need to have a friendly conversation, because anytime you walk up to a life and death confrontation, strike up a friendly conversation. And also, of course, taunt them that their attacks aren't gonna work. You think that would have worked on me? I've set up 14 barriers to defend myself against that exact technique since I've watched you grow up since you were in your mother's womb. You think you can defeat me with those 14 barriers? I predicted your 14 barriers before even entering this arena. Nani? That whole conversation was while one guy shot a laser and the shield didn't work, by the way. And you'll notice combat conversations are extremely important, because if you don't talk to your opponent, you don't really get a feel for who they are or what they're doing. When they fire a laser, they need to say, "I've prepared this laser for the last 47 years. There's no way it could be blocked by the mere power level he is now." And when the hero actually manages to block it, it's very important to understand that he said, "It's a good thing I was practicing for the last 6 months in stasis chrono time chamber thingo on this exact defense, or that laser would have finished me." This is all extremely important you understand, and even more important is the inner monologue. Inner monologues are not when you're talking to your opponent, it's when you're talking to yourself. One of those, "My friends are counting on me. If the next card I draw isn't the head of Exodia, Kaiba's younger brother will be trapped in the Shadow Realm forever. Oh, and Kaiba might as well. But what if it isn't Exodia? If it isn't Exodia, then I'd lose." Then, of course, you have Joey in the background. "Hey, you realize no matter how much you think about it, the card's not going to change." And then Yugi in his inner monologue says, "That's what you think, Joey. But I've set the deck far before this game began. That's what I like to call the heart of the cards." You know, inner monologue's very important. They give you a perspective of who the person is, so that when they defeat their opponent, they can also turn them good. Because no good opponent stays bad after beaten. Because what did they learn from the whole thing? Did they not watch Fairy Tail? Do they not understand that they have to turn good? If they don't turn good, then there was obviously a failure here somewhere, which would be very sad. And it also makes it easier to turn them good, because they're always sent to attack the main characters one at a time in order from weakest to strongest. And they tell you, because every single evil organization has like a number to it. I am Mr. 1. Or it's the 8 precepts of death, the 7 sins of purgatory, the 150 members members of the Akatsuki because we keep swapping them with each other because Orochimaru is a total douche. You know, titles like that. The bad guys always have to let the good guys know how many of them there are because we like to have a checklist of when we tick off defeating villains where every support character defeats every support villain and then the main character beats the main one. That's very important because if the main character isn't the one defeating the main villain, then who is? Not like we could give support characters spotlight. Sheesh. But this is all talking about male characters because as we know, the main characters in every single shonen is pretty much a male. So female characters have a totally different set of rules. If they're a lolly, they're probably over 1,000 years old with 980 years of battle experience and are probably broken. And if they're not a lolly, then they have massive tits where either their clothes get blown off during the fight, or the tits dodge bullets even with clothes, or you're just like Urza and you're like, my strongest armor is not wearing any armor except for this band-aid on my nipple. Yes, that's Urza's strongest armor. Kind of like Kill la Kill. But if all else fails and whatever you try seems to not be working, just talk to him. Like and subscribe. Have a great evening. Stay weird, fam.